So my name is Crystal, or you can call me Dr. Mac. I am an industrial organizational psychologist, and in terms of my background, I went to undergrad for architecture, and then I spent some time working in business and so forth. And now I do kind of a hybrid between doing like consulting, clinical work, and then the majority of my time now is going to be spent on making my artwork as a professional artist.
So when in your life did you begin your creative pursuit and what led you there?
I started my creative pursuit, oh my gosh, probably since I was like 5. I remember one of the first times I had an allowance, I took it and I went to the dollar store and I just like bought some stuff to draw with. And it kind of started there, just kind of picking up on it. But what really actually made the art stick with me was my grandmother was the one who actually taught me how to draw. So she taught me how to draw white lilies on a snow day from school. And ever since then, it just stuck with me.
Is there a foundation of inspiration you draw from? Like, is it a person, a book, an artist?
That's a really good question. What inspires my artwork? So I think it's three folds. So the first fold, my artwork is my time that I spend with God. So that's really important to me. So that's the first and foremost is that's my time with Him. Second fold is I'm obsessed with systems and patterns within the environment because I research creativity and how environments and so forth affect that. So I try to find basically the chaos within everyday life, and then I try to kind of mimic those patterns and so forth throughout my artwork. The third fold of it would be architecture. So for me, architecture is really important because I take a lot of the skill set that I learned in architecture, especially around line weights, and then drafting, and I utilize that in my artwork. I'm here at Azule because a few years ago I had an injury that impacted me to be able to do large scale, which is my passion because I'm working towards being a muralist. And so the big thing here that I was looking at is patterns and systems, and then really getting a feel for my body to understand how intense I can work, how slow I can work, also what colors I'm drawn to, and then really kind of figuring out where my baseline is post-injury. So that was the biggest thing that I worked on. In terms of pieces, this one I finished yesterday. It's titled Matthew 5:37, so it's one of my favorite scriptures. It's basically to be evenly yoked. So when you say yes is yes, when you say no is no, anything in between is of the evil one. And so that's something in which I was exploring through some personal experiences that I had, and just that tension of what goes on internally in order to be a clear person, which is something for me as an individual is really important. How I live my life and how I interact with people, that when I say something, they know it is of the truth and that it is clear.
What's the best piece of advice you've received?
Best piece of advice I have received. Oh. I think the best piece of advice that I have received is, it's a really good question because I've met some cool people in my life. Wow, I don't usually get sent for a loop. I see you smiling there. Ha ha ha. I would say the best piece of advice that I was given is that I'm a very structured and type A systematic person. And I'll say in the past year of my life, it's more of a collective, is to be curious and allow yourself to do that and see where it takes you and so forth. But within that curiosity, still moving to you're making decisions with it instead of necessarily being indecisive. So the biggest thing I would say is to be curious. And then a thing that I've learned within what I was advised on is when you see someone practicing humility, acknowledge it. I think that a lot of the times, which I was exploring in my own work here, we have the tendency to focus in on the negative, and we have the tendency to not realize how difficult it is to hold oneself accountable, especially amongst others and feelings that can come up. And when you see somebody doing the hard thing, acknowledge it, because you want that behavior to continue in them. So a big thing that I like to work on is portraiture in abstract shapes, and I like to work very minimalistic. I prefer working in black and white. That's, I would say it's like my baby, it's my home. So this one was really looking at like static emotions and so forth, and then pulling out different patterns and everything to convey the emotion in which I'm trying to show. So a big thing that I like to do when I do portraits and so forth, I try to identify unexpressed emotions of people or things, or within things that are occurring in situations, and I try to encapsulate that within a portrait. So that's what I was working on there within a gesture drawing, and then constraining myself to about 2 hours or so forth. A big thing that I do is, so sometimes when I work, I have a lot of ideas at once. So I've had the same little bouncy ball since I was in undergrad. And so I'll have like 5 different ideas of a design to do. So this one kept on coming up to me, this idea of like kind of like curled in, but I knew I didn't want to work it. So sometimes when you allow yourself to be curious, you express what's needed so then you can focus on what needs to be present. And so that's how I got to that one over there. But that also lets me know that this idea has come to me a few times, so I have to work on something with that. Oops, I'm attached. You can keep that in there. This is me just being myself at this point. Oh gosh, it's with me. Okay, I'm gonna hold on to that then. So then another thing that I was working on, I typically don't work in bright colors. Don't like them, 1-star Amazon review there. And, but I do it intentionally when I'm trying to figure out how to layer. So that's a big thing that I do, is if you see me working in bright colors, it's because I'm trying to figure out patterns. And then I'll try to use more of like a muted neutral color to figure out like big kind of conceptualize shapes. So I actually pulled a lot of stuff that I found around Azule. This is actually this pattern I pulled from, what was it? It was one of the cushions that's upstairs, and then repetitive circles, and then allowing that. So that's what I was working on here. This first came to me up here that I was working on is I went to Atlanta a few weeks ago, and I was really obsessed with a school of fish, and I really liked how when they were clumped together, they just kind of created this iridescent grouping, if you will. So that's what I was working on here, of just how do I kind of mimic that system of like grouping for a later project, but I knew I wanted to do something with that while I was here working with a school of fish. Then this is the big one that I was, you can go now. This is the big one that I was working on, Matthew 5:37, where I really kind of tied everything together that I've been working on for about the past 8 months, and trying to pull in patterns and so forth. And just, this was really about building, and it allowed me to embrace my authenticity that I'm not really a painter. I prefer drawing, but I like utilizing paint to kind of express movement within a piece. So I was really happy that I did that. And then this one I'll hold up for you. It's not completely done, but what artist is ever completely done? Okay, show and tell. So this one is also looking at, if you notice that system of circles and patterns. Circles, if you haven't picked up on that yet, is my favorite shape. So that's what I was working on here. And then utilizing broad strokes to kind of create that linear lines that I really enjoy. So a lot of the times if you see anything painted, it's usually because I'm processing an idea, because sometimes when you work bigger, let me just get this down. Stay. Okay. So when I work bigger, the strikes have to be bold and sharp. And so that can feel like a lot of pressure at times, because like, for instance, if you notice the curvature, to have it kind of sweep up, not knowing how to control when I really want to just be very expressive, I'll do that through painting. And when I'm having a difficult time with forms, I'll move to doing like clay work and so forth, because it's the frustration of that. I'll never be good at it. I've been doing this for a while. It's never good. So it'd be nice if someone could laugh when you're doing this. I hope you keep that in, because it's my real personality. And then another thing that I was working on that I'm the most proud of is this oops, constantly dropping stuff. Okay. This is the one that I'm the most proud of. I started working on this to a trip to Seattle. I had went out, and it was a really just beautiful experience, and I felt very inspired by the person that I was with. We had walked on the beach, and it was just kind of seeing how the water and the waves were moving. I kind of picked up on, and this really feels like the most balance of my architectural style, if you will, that I like to put into it. And this is long-term planning for doing like a bigger mural and so forth. But I keep skin tones and everything to the land and water, because we will always go back to what we build on top of. So this one was these two. So this one and then this one were the two I'm the most proud of for my experience here.